I'm your host, Reena Friedman Watts, and this is the Better Call Daddy Show.
Hey, this is Big Daddy, Wayne Friedman.
That's my grandpa. Grandpa, you ready for more daddy drama?
My dad is my number one hero and number one fan.
And I'm a pretty cool dude.
All right, season 4, baby, here we go.
More stories you're not going to believe.
And maybe you will after you listen.
5 stars.
5.5 stars, 2 thumbs up.
You are a pretty cool dude.
Love you, Mommy.
Don't stand on the table and damn the public. You'll get some words of wisdom to live by.
Here we go again. Better call Daddy.
You know what your problem is? You like me.
Yeah, I do. Each week, I interview a guest, share the stories with my dad, and then he weighs in at the end of every episode with his wisdom and wit.
Hey, Grandpa.
Everyone from influential players to inspirational fathers, and of course, controversial people.
Grandpa, my mommy's calling.
Creating that legacy one call at a time. And welcome to the Better Call Daddy Show.
Stay tuned.
Where's the music?
Better call Daddy 'cause he knows you best. Better call Daddy 'cause he's bringing the test. He sees possibilities. Ooh, better call Daddy, he'll be by your side. Better call Daddy, you're the apple of his eye. He sees possibilities. Oh, you
Today on Better Call Daddy, me and my mom are excited to be on this podcast.
Hi, this is Liana. Today we are going to talk about how I bring color into relationships, how I bring safety into my body and into my experience. And I even brought my son along to enjoy the journey. Thank you for having us.
We have two special people here today. David, I already know your name because your mom shared with me that you're getting to cut school right now.
Yeah.
Did you know that me and your mom went on a trip to Israel together in college?
Yes, I do. She really enjoyed it. So
Yeah, how cool is that? Have you ever been there?
no, I have never been to Israel, but I am looking forward to going there for my birthday trip.
Oh, nice.
Maybe even before that, if you may make it over there.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. Yeah, I haven't been in years, but I really want to go. You had a bar mitzvah this year, right?
Yeah. I did on May 17th. I had my bar mitzvah, so that was a really fun day.
Tell me about your bar mitzvah. Like, was it about the party for you, or did you actually enjoy the lessons? Tell me a little bit about it.
So I really enjoyed all of it. A lot of my friends came to the services, and then even more of them came to the party, and it was very fun because I had lots of fun.
Yeah.
That's
He did
awesome.
really good. Even a couple, we took a break right after. We didn't go to services for a couple weeks. It was, we'd been going a lot, and he was going through some rough time, and he was like, "Can we go to services soon?" I'm like, "Yeah, totally." So he really does enjoy it. And he's read Torah again since his bar mitzvah at Temple.
Oh my God. Yeah, most kids, they have their bar mitzvah and then they disappear from the shul. I can't believe you've already been back.
That's great. And he really, he's formed connections with different, our congregation is really interesting. It's a small congregation, a small Jewish area. It's a lot of older members who have been members for decades and whose kids are older than me, you know what I mean? And whose grandkids are a little bit older than David, right? And then this younger conglomerate of, kids who are bar mitzvah age, but also a little bit younger than that. And these, younger families. And so it's really interesting to see the different groups and the way that he interacts. He interacts so well, with just all the age groups, and he really enjoys, it seems like enjoys being at the. I mean, the first time that we did anything with that congregation, he was 3, maybe 4. And we went and did a Tashlik service, which is right by the Severn River. So we got to go and do the Tashlik service at the Severn River. Hawks are flying down to into the water. I mean, it just was so amazing. And we walked back and we're walking through the parking lot and he goes, "Come on, Mommy, let's go home." And he runs straight into the synagogue. And I was like, okay, I guess this is it. This is where we belong.
That's so sweet. So you've been taking him since he was young. And tashlich is like when you take bread and throw it into the water, and that's like supposed to be getting rid of your sins.
Yeah, it's like and I had never done it before that day. It's
Oh, wow.
between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and it's just supposed to be any moving body of water anytime between that period of those holidays. And yeah, it's a release. We've done it before with balloons. Our bubbles, I mean, like everyone gets bubbles, and we've done it at the bay. We've done it in a couple different places with our because we have so much access to water here. So
Yeah, that's awesome. What other rituals do you enjoy?
me or him?
Either.
I don't think I really have any.
Or do you have like a favorite holiday? Like when you think of like the Jewish holidays, are any of them still fun?
I really like Hanukkah,
Oh yeah.
but that's mostly just because like presents and latkes.
Latkes are yummy. I do a lot of ritual stuff with the work that I've been doing these last few years. I do moon rituals for the new moon and the full moon generally. I've been doing that for at least 2 years now. And that really has strengthened my connection with the moon cycles, and just, which also feels very Jewish to me too, like, reconnecting to that calendar that we use still, right? And also just a lot of the stuff that I've been doing, I feel like everything is ritual, everything is sacred. Like the more that you put your authenticity into everything that you're doing, then everything becomes sacred. Everything becomes a ritual. Everything becomes an expression, an art expression of what my physical body is supposed to be doing in this 3D reality to express my soul's purpose, or that greater, for the greater good. And then, again, like the more that I put my intention and calmness into a situation, then anything can really be a ritual and be sacred.
How's your mom's calmness been around her surgery?
So, after her surgery, she couldn't do a lot of things, but she recovered very quickly and was like mostly like back to normal in like a few weeks. So
That's sweet.
it wasn't really a huge change for me. I basically just kept doing the same chores that I always do.
Wait, what? You do chores? Please tell me about this.
I don't do very many. Like I vacuum sometimes, like occasionally. I empty the dishwasher like every day, basically, but that's
What?
super.
Okay, I need to introduce you to my children. How did she rope you into that? Do you get like allowance?
I'm supposed to, but usually I get it like every 6 months or something, and it's like $120 like every 6 months, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Hey, that's cool. That's doable.
Yeah, we had seen a thing of, he was little, he was still like 7 or 8, and I had seen this thing that said, it was also from the woman who had said we're raising adults and not children, which I really resonated to.
I love
And
that.
she talked about how with her kids, they wanted them to be able to manage money. So the allowance was low. It was like however old they were, like that's how much money they got a week or a month or whatever it was. I don't remember. But they encouraged them to put it into 3 buckets: a save bucket, a spend bucket, and a donation bucket, or a contribution bucket. And so it just gave them some control over, how do I want to split this up? What am I saving for? What do I want to spend my money on right now? And how do I want to donate to the community, to things that interest me, whatever it is? And so we've tried to do that a lot with him, and clearly like he got a lot of money from his bar mitzvah. And so, so that's been an interesting thing. And, we've talked about, we still have to do that donation.
I need to still deposit my son's all of his checks. They're like just sitting in his room. Have you all done that yet?
We did.
Okay.
We did that pretty quickly. My husband's, military, ex-military, not ex, veteran. So like he keeps us on track, which is exhausting.
That's the guy's role, right? Structure.
Yeah. No, he's very structured, and we are both very ADHD and like
Yeah, same.
getting out into nowhere. Yeah. Again, like neither of us ate before we came today, right? Like if my husband never would have gotten past like not skipping a meal, like
Same. That is so interesting. Okay, I want to know, like, how did you meet your husband? Because it happened like shortly after we knew each other.
It really did. So I came back from Israel from our trip. We came back early January. It was early January because we were there for New Year's Eve. January 2000. Or no, 2001, January 2001.
Right, because we graduated in 2001.
Right. So, I graduated in December of 2000. So I actually graduated, then went to Israel, then flew back to Maryland and started my job. I wasn't supposed to start my job until 2 weeks later, I think. And because I wasn't sure of how I was going to feel coming home, if I was going to jet lag and, just whatever. I had a lot of life events happen in, a relatively short period of time. So I got home, I had no jet lag. And I remember calling my boss and just saying, hey, I know I'm not supposed to start, but can I start sooner? And he was like, sure, if you want to come in on the 15th of January. So I started work at the 15th of January at the company that I just celebrated 25 years with, which was wild.
25 years. Oh my God.
And
congrats that you're a lifer. That's insane.
So, and then my husband was a guy who worked for one of our vendors. And I talked to him on occasion when I would call in, to this company that he worked for. And one day, I've learned this story at our wedding. His best friend was an outside salesman for the company that he worked for at the time. And his best friend came to visit our office, and it's all men. I sell plumbing supplies. So it's all men. And I'm like this 21-year-old this.
Fresh out of college.
And I'm laughing in the office. And he was like, who is that? And he comes around the corner, and apparently he went back to the office and he said, anytime Liana from Ferguson calls in, don't talk. No one's allowed to talk to her but Matt. Like, this woman is going to marry my best friend. And so when she calls in, put her on hold and put her to Matt. And he didn't tell Matt he was doing this. He only told everybody else in the office and never told me. I literally learned this. I'm like literally sitting at my wedding, listening to this story. Like, are you kidding me? And so I would call and I'd talk to the people who, answered the phone, and then they would like send me over to Matt, and we would talk about prices on sinks, or like I would figure out if a sink had shipped and all this stuff. And so the November after our trip, I went to Paris with my mother. It was my graduation trip. And I remember that's one of the first memories I have of having like an in-depth conversation with my husband about something, that wasn't work related. And then a couple weeks later, he called and asked, he said that there was like a product that he needed, wanted to see if we had it in stock and if he could get it to like bring it to another wholesaler. And I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but let me find out. So I remember going to my boss and asking, hey, so-and-so needs this thing. And he's like, who needs it? And I was like, Matt from, I think it was like Burns Associates at the time. And he was like, oh yeah, Matt, absolutely. That's fine. He can totally do that. So I told him, yeah, you could come and get this thing. So he drives to my office to come get this thing. They call me from the counter and say, there's this person here to see you. And I come out to the counter and I'm like, ooh, that guy at the end of the counter is kind of cute. And they're like, introduce me to this guy, and it's him. And so then I get all nervous, and I remember introducing him to everybody in the office, and everyone had talked to him for years and years, also. And so it was really cool. He got to meet everybody. And then we just kept talking on the phone. And then Steve, his best friend, called me one day and said, what are you doing this weekend? And I said, well, I'm working, because we had inventory and then we had all this stuff going on anyway. And he said, well, I wanted to see, what are you doing Saturday night? I said, well, I don't know. Probably resting after all this stuff I'm doing. He said, well, do you want to go to the plumber's ball? I said, the what? And again, like, I'm young, like I'm 22 at this point, like I'm impressionable. Everyone's calling me naive and whatever in the office. And this guy comes at me with plumber's ball. I'm like, okay, this is a joke. And he's like, no, it's real. Everybody gets dressed up, and there's like a casino, like a casino night and all these things. And I'm like, you're not making this sound any more real. You're telling me that all the plumbers are going to be wearing tuxes and all like everyone's in gowns and stuff. You're not making this sound real. I'm like, this is just made. You're just trying to like make fun of me. He's like, no. It's really real. It's a real thing. And so I asked somebody else in the office, and they're like, oh no, yeah, it's a real thing. The Maryland Master Plumbers Association Plumbers Ball. It's like their big event of the year. And it was actually 24 years ago yesterday that, and so he didn't tell Matt that he was asking me to go to this. And then I said, well, who's going? And he's like, oh, well, this person from the office going, that person from the office going, that person. He goes, oh, and Matt's going to be there. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, no, I could probably do that. And so after I get off the phone with him, he goes to Matt and says, what are you doing this weekend? And Matt was like, going to be playing pool, because that's pretty much all my husband does. Not all he does. It's his favorite thing.
He's like, better rope him in now.
And he said, well, now you're coming to the plumber's ball. Leanna's going to be there. And Matt's like, I don't even have a suit. And Steve's like, I'll buy you a suit.
Oh my God.
So Steve bought him a suit and we went to the plumber's ball, and I ended up going back he had just gotten a puppy. And so we ended up going back to his house and like play with the puppy. And I always say like, I never left, which is pretty much true. And when he tells the story to David, he's like, your mom was like a stage 5 clinger. But
That's
yeah,
sweet. I love that. That's a crazy first date story.
it was. And we went to the plumber's ball for like 12 years before the first one we couldn't go to was actually recently. David had a fever. It was like spiking his first fever. And so we ended up having to not go one year. And then like a bunch of stuff happened after that. And we haven't gone. It's been a few years since we've gone. But yeah, that was how we met, was all through.
That's so sweet. And haven't you like gone to your son's school and talk about working in the toilet industry? Can you talk about that?
I did, yeah. So I've done that twice now. So he was in a magnet program for 6th grade, and I did the career day for 6th grade. And then I basically did the same speech for 7th grade because he was at a different school. So I was like, I've got a new audience. I could do the same speech I've already done and perfected. And so yeah, that was a lot of fun. I started the thing with, I'm a professional laugher, is what I said. And so I said, I'm gonna lead you all in a laughing exercise. And I talk about all the benefits of laughter. And then I go into my Joker laugh. And all the kids look at me like I've got 6 heads, and a couple of them giggle. And then I say, wasn't that so much fun? And everyone's like, you're crazy. And then, just kidding. I'm not a professional laugher. I actually sell toilets for a living. And then, and then I went into like the actual work that I do. And
How do you get people to laugh? Let's do the exercise.
yeah.
Oh my God, my dad is going to love that. Oh my God, David, what do you think of these stories?
I don't remember you going that into depth about you meeting my dad before.
Of course.
You probably did, but I was probably like not remembering.
Right.
Because I was probably like, 8 or something. And then like when you came to like do like the exact same speech, I basically was just like, oh, she's just gonna do the exact same thing again. So yeah.
Was there any surprises, and how did your friends react to that?
They were just like, I don't know. I don't really remember. That was like all like last year.
I did hear that for a while they were calling me the scary laughter lady. So which I'm totally love that. Like that's going in my bio.
You're like adding that to my LinkedIn. Yeah.
At work, sometimes I'll call certain vendors the same way I used to call my husband, and I'll have something crazy going on and I'm laughing like that. And I heard one lady one day go, Fisher, you've got to call. Leanna's on the phone doing her Joker laugh. So,
That's great. I think you should like remix Roseanne Barr.
ooh. Yeah.
She's got a great laugh.
Does. Yeah. That intro.
I bet you could do it.
That's funny. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I want to get her attention, so we should try that.
We'll talk about that.
Oh my gosh. And I know that you guys have read some of the same books. Talk about that.
So I read like a lot of books, like compared to most people my age. Like I bring books to school. I have basically like an entire library in my bedroom. It's a few hundred books.
Wow.
And I read just a lot of books, mostly like fiction or like historical fiction or fantasy or sci-fi, dystopian. I like pretty much just all of that. So I read a lot of books. Like I've read Harry Potter multiple times. I've read a lot of different like sci-fi and dystopian books, like The Hunger Games. I've read that multiple times. And I've read a lot of other like fantasy books, like Wings of Fire and like with the Warrior Cats.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of different books, I guess.
And then we like reading together. Like there's, especially if there's a book that I feel like might be hard concepts for him to engage in on his own, we'll just read together. I like reading out loud. And so, we'll read different things together. Or sometimes he'll read a book and then he'll be like, you need to read this. Or I'll read a book and I'll be like, you need to read this. And because we do have very similar tastes in books that we like to read. And, we just like kind of hanging out together, which is fun.
That's so sweet. Do you think that you're like your mom at all?
Yes.
That's sweet.
I'm like both of my parents, like very evenly. I feel like everyone who's like met me is either like, if they know my dad more, they're like, you look just like your dad. And if they know my mom more, they're like, you look just like your mom. So, and some people are like, you look like an even split in between your mom and your dad. It's like, okay, I very like split in between mom and dad.
That's so cool. Do you have like favorite authors?
I do have some really like favorite authors that I like a lot, like the people who wrote Wings of Fire. Also, Suzanne Collins, who wrote the Hunger Games books. And yeah.
You like that Corman, Korman?
Oh yeah, Gordon Corman.
Yeah.
He's another one that writes like a whole bunch of like different like realistic fiction type books. They're really neat, actually.
What about Alan Gratz?
Yeah, I've read quite a few of his books. We actually read one of his books earlier in the year in school. It was the refugee one.
I'm reading that because my son, who's your age and just had a bar mitzvah this year, was reading the one on 9/11, and I enjoyed that so much that I picked up Refugee, and now I just picked up one called Prisoner or something. There's a bunch, but I love how he takes like different stories happening at different times and then weaves them together with historical events.
Yeah. So like in Refugee, there's like 3 different characters, all from like different times. Like one's like in the modern day, one was like, from like the Soviet Union era, the Cold War, and then one from World War II.
I think one was like Syria, one was Cuba, and one was Germany. And they were all trying to escape those areas in different times. And I loved that. That was so interesting.
And they all like connected together too. Like the grandfather from like the Cuba one, he was the one that said to the immigrants from Germany that they could not go to Cuba. And then the people that the
Jews couldn't go to Cuba.
The Jews couldn't go to Cuba, so they had to go back to France. But then the Syrian refugee, he went to Germany and met the original like Jewish person's sister who survived, Holocaust.
Being turned away.
And it was actually like his neighbor. His new neighbor was like so odd. So,
does it help you have conversations about kind of your roots and identity?
I don't know.
Okay.
Our family history is a bit scattered. My mom was adopted. I don't really have much of a connection with my father. But we do talk a lot about just similarities between things. And that's again why I enjoy reading things from a perspective similar to his age, because they're going through, even if they're not going through the same life experiences, they're going through the same emotional experience, right? And so trying to connect all that together and again, teach him how to feel empathy and understand other people's struggles and other people's stories and how you don't really have any idea what's happening to somebody. Even if you see, whatever you see, there's no way to know really what someone is really going through and what their lived experience is. So
that is very powerful. Okay, so you went through a divorce with your parents. How has that played into your parenting? Like, I feel like you've been like such a solid parent, employee, like you've pursued personal development. Like, how did you figure all of that out when you did not have that example?
So I'll start with the longevity at my job, because that has been such a big part of even my experience with my husband, really, right?
Yeah.
So my mother was in pharmaceuticals, and so she moved jobs all the time. And a lot of it wasn't her desire. It was, companies got bought out or merged or this and that, and, this boss who she really liked went to this company and was like, hey, come work on this drug. And so she would. And I watched that experience from my perspective and was like, like all the stuff that she would hate about one place, she would get to another place and was the same garbage. You know what I'm saying? Or worse, right? Like the worst garbage. And there's been a lot of times in my career where people are like, why haven't you left? Why haven't you done this? Why haven't you? And I'm like, I've thought about it. Like there are definitely times where I'm like, gosh, this is like not what I want to do forever. And also I know what I'm dealing with and I'm respected there. And I like the people that I'm working with. I know what to do if I don't like the people that I'm working with, especially now that I've got a quarter of a century of experience in this company. Like everybody knows me. If somebody's got a question, they're calling me if they can't figure out the answer from somebody else. Because even if I don't know, I'll probably know who to talk to or who to ask or what direction to go with it. And also I understand that in my industry, in my opinion, what my company offers is superior to what other wholesalers can offer. And so for me to leave the structure that I have in my job, which sometimes is frustrating, especially as a corporation. And, we just got onto the New York Stock Exchange in the last couple of years. And so that really changes a lot of the direction that the company goes and things like that. But also I understand enough of the politics and enough of the stuff to like be able to navigate my way through it. And with all the work that I've done these last couple of years, to be able to really see my growth and understand again, like how instead of coming to life as Liana from Ferguson, now I can come to Ferguson as Liana, and I don't have to own that identity of that person being anything to do with me. It really has given me a lot of perspective on being able to navigate a corporate landscape from a more awakened perspective. And I have good long-term standing relationships with my customers. I have good long-standing relationships with the people that I work most closely with. And because I've had such longevity there and so many different roles, it gives me a lot of freedom, like to be able to take off on a Tuesday because I want to film a podcast with my friend and not have to go to work and not have to feel right. Like,
Hell yeah.
What am I missing? Oh, what if something happens?
I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about any of that because I like nothing. What's going to happen? Like,
You've proven yourself.
I'm gonna get on their job site because I'm not there today. Like nobody's gonna die. So, and so it offers me a lot of freedom to.
I love that.
And come to a more authentic place to be like, you know what? None of this stuff really, at the end of the day, matters. Like it's not. It's important, but it's not gonna define me if there's something goes the other direction. Whatever. So
it reminds me of when I started keeping Shabbos on my third season of Nanny 911. I was like, I know when the deliverables are. I have a good relationship with the guy I've been working with for the other 2 seasons. Like, it's kind of a well-oiled ship at this point. I've been on since the very beginning when it was in pilot stages, and the world is not going to come out of orbit if I am not available for 24 hours.
Right. Exactly. And being able to be confident in that space. So, and then as far as the relationship with my husband, we had ups and downs. Yeah, of course. Like we're both very different people. And we've always maintained very different just like lifestyles, you know what I mean? But we've been able to merge them together well. And we waited a long time to have a child, which I think helped too, because we were able to really cement our relationship before we added another personality that was, going to need a lot of care and whatever to our lives. And so, and he came from divorce and, plenty
Your
of.
husband did too?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Were you worried about that?
No, it honestly was never something that I really spent a lot of time worrying. It's funny. We actually got married twice and we used to joke, like, does this mean we have to get divorced twice? And
wait, there's a story there.
Well, so we'd been dating almost 2 years, and some friends of ours were going on a Jamaica vacation for their anniversary. It was like their 5-year anniversary, I think, or something like that. And they invited us to come on this Jamaica vacation. So we signed up to go. It was a sandals resort, everything's included, all the stuff.
I've been to Jamaica.
Yeah. And it was like a 7-day, stay.
Sweet.
So we're looking at this stuff. And I was like, look, babe, we could get married for free since we're staying for 7 days. He's like, cool, let's do it. And so we we booked it. We signed up to get married in Jamaica.
Oh my God, I love it.
And then I called my mom and I told her that we were going to get married in Jamaica. And like, we're like, if you want to come, like you could come. And she lost it. She freaked out. And so she was like, that conversation didn't go well. But then she called back and she was like, look, fine. You want to get married in Jamaica, but get married here first. So then
wow.
I had a wedding in Maryland in like less than 6 months because we'd already booked this whole trip. And the funny thing is that our wedding in Jamaica is his birthday, May 18th. And when we were pregnant with him.
My firstborn is born on May 18th.
No way.
Do we just have so much in common? That is insane.
Oh,
no
wow.
way.
It's so funny. So when I was pregnant with him, my due date was like the 24th or something. And the whole time Matt's like, you're going to have him on our anniversary. You're going to have him on our anniversary. So we got married on May 9th in Maryland. And then which was gorgeous. And I'm so glad that I did it. I'm so glad that I had a wedding here. It was awesome. It was wonderful having all the family together. Like, I'm so grateful that I was forced into that setting. And then we went to the beach and had this like super easy, got married in a bikini, on the beach with like barefoot with my friends, and then to have him born on that day was really very cool. So we have all this like cool stuff because we ended up getting this piece of art made. It's like 2 palm trees kind of going like this into a heart, and it says May 18th, 2004 on it. And then, clearly we have a lot of May 18th things.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I don't know why that reminds me of now the tattoo conversation. Should we talk about that? What are the stories behind the tattoos? Because are Jews supposed to have tattoos? They can, right? Who knew?
There are so many stories about tattoos. So I'll tell the one that affects him. Do you want to go back to your drawings and stuff out there? Okay. So
nice to meet you. Thank you for weighing in. It was awesome to have you.
Yeah. So not my first tattoo, but one of my first tattoo for him, or my only tattoo, I guess, for him. The year that I was pregnant with him, my mom kept talking about how exciting it was going to be that 2 of her grandchildren, because my sister was pregnant at the same time, were going to be water dragons, just like she was. And that was when I found out how old my mother was, because until that point, I only knew 29, and I knew she wasn't actually 29, but I also didn't have any basis of like figuring out how old she was, because it was the only number we were ever given. And so when I was pregnant with him, and I found, I knew that like it was a 60-year cycle. I was like, oh, so she's getting ready to turn 60. So like I had him and then like started planning her 60th birthday party. And so one of my most favorite tattoos is on my foot, and it's a water dragon from the year 2012, which was the year that my son was born. And it has 2 gemstones on it. One that is a sapphire for my mother and one that is an emerald for my son. So, because that's their birthstones. And I love it. It's on my foot. It's really fun. I love seeing it. And I get a lot of, when people see it, they ask me a lot about that. And people see it at Temple and ask me about that. I have these on my wrists. These are relatively new.
Yeah. What are the hearts?
So they were kind of random. I went to meet a family member. I bought my mom and my dad a 23andMe thing several years ago. And, again, my mother was adopted, and she has recently, over the last couple of years, started finding all these cousins, and all of them live in Maryland, which is just wild, right?
Wow.
And so she was having lunch with one of them and invited me to come. David was still at camp, and I'm driving to this place to meet the family, and next door is a place called Key Tattoo, and keys are always a big thing for me. And so I was like, I think when I leave here, I'm going to go get a tattoo. And it was just like this random, like, I'm just going to go do it. Why not? So after the lunch, I went into this tattoo place, and I'm looking around, and, the bell had rung, but there was like these swinging doors that kind of like were between me and whoever was in the back whoever they were working on. And so I'm looking around. I'm not really seeing anything that is that interesting to me. And, I see that it's $100 minimum, which is pretty standard. But I was like, you know what? If I'm just going to stand in here and wait and no one's going to come and even say hello, I'm just going to drive to the place that I've had tattoos at before and, go get a random tattoo there. So I got back in my car, and I had a journal with me that day that had 2 hands kind of like this on it, like kind of like in this kind of pattern with the wrist facing out. And I started, while I'm in the car, I'm like drawing hearts, and I drew 1 heart on one wrist and 3 hearts on the other wrist. And I drew them like one facing up, one facing to the side, one facing down. And so when I got to the place, it's a Saturday afternoon. They're busy. I'm just a walk in. I'm like, I'm not in a hurry. I put my name on the list and I just kept drawing at it. And so when I finally got back with the woman, JoJo, who did them, I'd never met JoJo before. And I told her what I had in mind. I showed her the picture that I had drawn. And so we started looking at different heart shapes, and she's starting to turn them around, and they just looked weird. Like one of them looked like kind of like saggy ball sack when she. And I was like, she's like, I think we just keep them all the same direction. And I'm like, fine. So she said, what colors do you want? I said, well, this one needs to be fuchsia. And then these three, I wanted to be teal, yellow, and orange. And when she did this one first. And then she said, what order do you want these? And I said, you pick. I said, just whatever, you pick. I don't care. And so that's how they ended up. And when I got home, I had a Reiki training with my sister in February 2024. And the woman who had done Reiki on me as part of our training had painted me a picture of what she saw when she touched me the first time with Reiki. And the hearts are like exactly the same as what she painted on this painting, like the same shape, all the same colors, like the same size. It's like I literally got back to my altar room where they have the painting in there. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember sending her a picture like, do you see how similar these hearts are? It was wild. And
yeah, that sounds spiritual. And also, like, do you feel like spiritually connected to JoJo now?
I feel spiritually connected to everybody, honestly, because we're all one. We're all going through the same stuff. I was on my sister's integration call this morning, and one of the women said something about that. Like, it just sometimes I know we're not all going through the same thing, but like sometimes it feels like we're all having similar experiences or we have similar stuff that we can share. I'm like, of course we are. That's why we've been drawn together into this community, because of that connection also. And that's how we kind of find our soul family. That's how we find the people that we're supposed to be connected to. I mean, I think about, again, like the similarities between me and you and how we reconnected over 2 decades after we had first met. I mean, we went to school together. We never knew each other. And we met because of this trip that both of our parents still let us go on in the middle of a war. Most people didn't let their kids go on that trip. Like, we talked about that recently.
It was an empty bus. Like, in fact, they had to join colleges. It was like IU and Purdue, and then we still barely had enough people.
Yeah. It was definitely like I don't want to say a scary time, because I don't like using that word, but also because I never felt scared.
I didn't either. We were young and just wanted to have fun and party and get
yeah.
covered in mud.
Totally covered in mud. That was so great.
It's true. Like, we were just going to a different country and a different place and exploring the world and meeting and talking to the locals and partying with them, and it was amazing, and I wanted to do it again and again.
Yeah, but and again, even beyond the partying aspect of it, I never felt. I remember distinctly standing in a McDonald's, and everybody over the age of 17 has got a gun strapped to, like an Uzi strapped to their back, and I'm like, I've never felt safer in my whole life than I do in this place right now, you know?
Totally. And it didn't even seem weird.
No, it was just
You're like, can I take a picture with you? That seems just like a souvenir.
Yeah, it was so wild to feel so safe in a place that's going through such an uncertain war and uncertain time, and then to have the gratitude of the people that were like, thank you for coming. Like, thank you for still coming, because we know so many of you didn't. And I mean, I remember my mom asking me, like, she's like, I'm okay with you going as long as you're okay going. And I was like, no, I want to do it. I want to go. And I know that there were kids that didn't. And Purdue was playing in the Rose Bowl that year. And I remember there was like 1 second.
We lost.
We did. We got our butts handed, which we knew we were going to. We'd never win bowl games, even with Drew Brees. We never won bowl games.
They did name a street after him, though. Do you remember that?
First ever student to get a street named after him. And I cried like a baby when he won the Super Bowl. I cried more when he hurt himself, but I don't want to talk about Drew Brees right now. But I do remember for a split second going, if I don't go to Israel, I could go to the Rose Bowl with all my friends. And I was like, that's the craziest thing you've ever said. And so, you know.
Do you want to tell the Dead Sea story?
Oh, sure. Can I grab the pictures? Do you want me to?
Yeah. I'm gonna share those when we post.
I was gonna say, if you want to just put them up. But so we went to the Dead Sea as part of one of our trips, and they have these buckets of mud on the beach that you're supposed to like lather yourself because the Dead Sea mud is really good for your skin. It's got all these minerals and all this really great stuff. And Reena and I and our other roommate, Rachel, who would never have been satisfied with just smearing mud on ourselves. No, we jumped in these buckets. So there is a picture of all three of us like in these buckets on the beach, just like literally submerged in the buckets. And then you go and you get in the Dead Sea and you think it's going to be like refreshing, and it is not. It is painful. Like
you can't stay in too long. It burns.
No. And every cut that you've ever had in like your whole life is like burning through the salts. And you're just like, this is insane. Like, why does everything hurt? And like the whole bottom of the sea is like hard, sharp points.
Rock.
Because
it's like salt rock.
Right. And so like you step and like you're stepping into like, you're putting more holes in your feet.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like all you can see of us is like, you can't even see our nose holes. Like our noses have disappeared. You can see our eyes and barely our mouths. There's like Dead Sea mud coming out of our ears. It's really a lot.
So we did as much as we could to try to get the mud off of us, but
and the full experience.
So we get back on the bus, and I remember taking that picture of you with the caked ear, like your whole ear is caked with mud. And so we get back to our really nice hotel because they put us in really nice hotels for
like resort.
Oh yeah. And it's Friday night, so it's Shabbat. And in Israel, all of the hotels have Shabbat elevators. And if you don't know what a Shabbat elevator is, it is an elevator because on Shabbat, you wouldn't be able to use, if you're observant, you wouldn't be able to use an elevator because it takes you exactly where you're trying to go because you told it to go there. So like the Shabbat elevator stops on every floor on the way up and every floor on the way down all the time. So you always tried not to get in the Shabbat elevator because it would take forever. And our floor, we were like on 27, 28. We were like way up. And we get back to the hotel right as everyone is like getting ready for like Shabbat dinner. Everyone is in their like nice Shabbat clothes. And we are literally in bikinis with towels, caked in mud. And we get into the Shabbat elevator. It's like all these people dressed up that were supposed to be in the Shabbat elevator because they're not trying to use the other elevators. And we had to stand there for like 20 floors. I think sometimes the door would open and people would come to get in and they'd be like,
we'll wait.
Like, see the two of us in our bikinis with our caked mud everywhere.
That was so good. That was such a good description. I mean, I don't even think I knew what a Shabbos elevator was either. So it might have taken us like a little bit of time to figure out why we were getting all of those strange looks.
I mean, I remember because it wasn't the first hotel we had stayed at. It was like the second or third hotel that we had stayed at. So we knew that the Shabbat elevator existed, but I think that was really our first experience of an actual Shabbat event kind of happening in our hotel. Here's the caked ear mud.
Oh my God, yes.
And here's
so
the two of us on the bus.
I feel like we still look like that.
We do. We still have the same spirit, the same like excitement to life, and just,
Tell me about how your spirit is shining now. I mean, tell me about other ways in which you're kind of like releasing and, enjoying life like that.
Color and art for me is big. Yeah. So the surgery that I had recently, I had a hysterectomy in November and it came on kind of quickly and whatever, not the story I'm trying to tell right now. But in 2021, I had a total thyroidectomy. And that also came on relatively surprisingly. Actually, it wasn't too much of a surprise. But anyway, coming out of that surgery, I lost my voice for 3 months. And it was painful. Like I said, at the time I was reading to my son every night. I couldn't read to him. I was like writing him notes when he would come home from school. How was your day? I was having to perform all my meetings through work on Teams calls by like text, typing my answers. I literally could not speak. I had to work with a speech therapist to get my voice back. It was a really challenging experience for me that really gave me a lot of clarity the more that I moved through the things that have happened since then. And my therapist always used to tell me, she always used to call me an artist. And for a couple of years, she would call me an artist. And I never really asked it. Like I just kind of would roll my eyes when she would say that. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I remember asking her once, explain it to me. Like, explain how I'm an artist. And I can't remember any of the words that she said, but I know that I felt them in my whole soul. And a couple years later, I started painting all over my walls. So my husband gave me a room to paint.
What a dream.
And so I painted the room, and after I painted the room, the whole room color, he said, I can fix your drips. And I was like, no, the drips are my favorite part. And then when I was testing out what paint colors I wanted to use, I was making these drippy hearts. And I didn't know at the time that was going to be the thing, but apparently that was the thing that I was that I needed to do. So I actually left the drippy hearts on the wall when I painted the wall. So you can actually see the hearts dripping through in the same color. But then I wanted to my vision was like a whole room of hearts that I would have anytime someone comes over, I would have them paint a heart in there. But I wanted a heart that I could see from every room on my first floor. And so I had my friend come one day, and I stood in all different parts of my house. And like, as soon as I could see the room, I'd say, okay, I can see the room. And she would like put her hand. She was like, okay, here. And I was like, nope, not yet. Here, here, here. And then whenever I could say I could see it, she put a mark. And then I did it from the other side of the room. She put a mark so that I could make sure that I could see that from every space. And then the first thing that I painted in that room was the big pink heart. And I made it super drippy, and it's Liana sized, which I didn't do on purpose, but it is. It's completely Liana.
You can fit in it?
I mean, like, it's the same size as me is what I mean. Like, it's how tall it is, which makes sense because I drew it, right? But I used her marks, and I didn't like draw a mark on the wall or anything other than the marks that she put, and I just painted very drippy paintbrush. Psh, psh, and the room is like, the color is called kiwi, so it's a bright green room. And then we just started drawing stuff all over it. My best friend came over that day, and I drew that heart, and then I wrote our last name and the date that we got, not the date, but the year. Like, I wrote like 2004 EST, and I wrote love on one side of the room. And then David came and painted this really cool dragon, and he added a couple things. And then my best friend, Katie, painted like one section of the wall, and she made all these, like, she's like an artist. Like, she really has skills with just creating the things that she wants to create. And like, I just kind of make a mess, which I also enjoy. So, but she made these really beautiful hearts and these vines and all this different stuff. And
would you ever have had the freedom to do something like that in your home growing up?
No. And it's funny that you say that. When I first started telling people my idea for this, I cannot tell you how many mostly Jews said to me, you're just going to have to paint it when you move. And I was like, yeah, but I'm going to live there first. So, and also, who's to say that I have to paint it when I move? Because when we moved out of our old
Liana
house,
was here.
Yeah, right? When we moved out of our old house, my son had a panda mural all over his walls, his whole room. There was these 3 huge giant pandas that had been painted by a woman who passed away when she was young. She had a boyfriend that had died in a car accident, and then she got involved with drugs, and actually a woman from Purdue that worked with her. The connections are wild. Not going into the whole story, but anyway, we were selling the house, and my realtor was like, you need to paint the nursery. And I said, no. I said, I'm not painting over these pandas. Somebody else can paint over them. I'll put like $100 or $200, whatever you think I need to put in for somebody to paint over it. But I'm not. There is no way you are getting me to paint over the last thing that woman put in my house. And so actually just the other day, my husband was saying something about all the stuff we're going to have to paint when we move. And I'm like, well, first of all, we have no plans to move. And also, like, why should I paint over it? Why can't I just, again, put like, here's $1,000 credit, paint the whole house, or here, paint the house the color you want to paint it.
Right.
Like,
make it yours.
Why should I go through and do it when you're just going to come in and probably paint it your own color anyway? You know what I mean? So I don't know. But it was really interesting, the number of people, again, that were Jewish that said that to me. And I remember I go to shows at the Hippodrome. I go to musicals almost every month. The woman that I go with is married to a rabbi that used to be at my temple. And her and I were talking about it, and I mentioned and she's an artist. She's the one I do like all the cool art with. And we're talking about it, and she said, well, I think a lot of it is the uncertainty and the diaspora, like, trauma of being Jewish, like not having a home, not having a place that you can know that you're going to stay for a significant, like not knowing when you're going to have to get up and go, right? That's trauma that we carry. And that's what, when you talk about generational trauma and the way that things stay in our bodies, even when we didn't actually experience them, that's it. Like just feeling like you're not at home, like you're not in a safe place, and what is safe. And so I feel like the majority of the work that I've been doing over these years is just making everything safe, making my body making sure that my body knows that it can trust me to keep it safe, even in things that in the past might have put me in a space of feeling not safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What is that involved? Yeah. And what does that go back to for you? Yeah. I want to know all that. You're like therapy.
A lot of therapy, a lot of internal work, a lot of patience and grace and compassion, mostly for myself, but also for others. One of the things with the hearts, a few years ago, I saw something about every 10 minutes, you should forgive everybody, forgive yourself, forgive everyone that you know, forgive. And it was like, set a reminder on your phone. And I hate when spiritual things are like, set a reminder on your phone. I'm like, my phone keeps me more distracted than anything anywhere. There's no way I'm going to get more spiritual by being more connected to every 10 minutes, my phone making noise. That's insane. To be fair, my phone ringer has been turned off for almost 2 years now. Not a single sound comes out of it ever. I don't ever turn it on. Even if I'm going through like hard stuff, I know that if I need to answer a call, I'm going to see it. There's been very few times that I've actually missed like an important call, and none of them have been anything that have been something that I could have controlled anay. But
that's probably how you've kept a job for 25 years and stayed married that long.
So it's a lot of that stuff, but it's also, when I started painting the hearts everywhere, I was like, every time I see a heart, I'll do the forgiveness. That will be my reminder to do the forgiveness piece of this. And then now I have hearts everywhere.
So you got to forgive.
My bracelet is hearts. And it's amazing the places that I see hearts in. I actually had a couple years ago, I was kind of having this like wild universe matrix breaking experience. And I remember saying to the universe, you're telling me that every time I need a heart, I'm going to see one. And I looked out my kitchen window and everything was hearts. Like I see hearts in the trees. I see them in open spaces. I see them everywhere. And then I was like, oh, really? And so I turned around and the next thing that I saw was a heart. And then I have a button on my refrigerator that has all these positive sayings. I was originally trying to use it for my deaf dog to go outside and it didn't work for that. But anyway, now it's on my refrigerator. And so I pushed it and the message that it came out with, it's got like 50 something messages. The messages it came out with also had heart in it. And then I turn around from that. I'm already like laughing because I'm like, okay, universe, I got it. Fine. I got it. My husband comes upstairs with the backpack I used to carry in college, which is a whole nother story. It was like literally a car tire with a license plate on it and a seatbelt. It's a whole thing. Anyway, he comes up with that, with a dog collar from our old dog who passed away before we moved into this house, and a pair of earbuds. And that was my reminder to listen, which I don't do very well yet. But the funny thing was, so the backpack is basically a car with a seatbelt that connects, that closes the backpack together. The dog collar was also a seatbelt. It was like a little mini, teeny tiny one. And the tag that had my dog's name on it was a heart.
Aw.
And so at that point, I literally like fell to the ground laughing. I'm like, okay. I'm going to get a heart whenever I need one. Okay. And that's going to be my cue that like everything is right. Everything is fine. Even if it feels chaotic, even if it feels uncertain, if I can see a heart and I can breathe, because I can always breathe, then I'm okay. Everything is okay. And but it's building that trust. It takes a long time because our nervous systems are stressed. Our society does not give us tools to understand and work with our nervous system to make it a healthy, safe place. They probably do kind of exactly the opposite because they want us in a state of survival. They want us in a state of not enoughness, victimhood. That keeps us controlled and separate. And what we were talking about earlier with like divisive us versus them, all of that stuff comes from a sense of victimhood and a sense of not being safe in our own space and having to do whatever we need to do to make ourselves safe. And so if I can be safe anywhere, then I don't have to live in that sense, that state of survival mode anymore. And then I can be free to paint all over my walls because
Hell yeah.
what's the best that can happen?
I love that. Well, since you brought up forgiveness, I think that's a really good transition into the question that you wanted to ask my dad.
Sure. Yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier, my dad and I have a complicated relationship. So, my parents separated when I was about 8. I remember the argument for him leaving. I remember that quite clearly.
Oh my God, really? Even
I
at
don't
such a
remember-
young age?
I don't remember much more about it, but I remember being on the stairs and hearing them argue.
Oh man.
And after that, we really didn't see my dad that often. So he had, visitation stuff, but it was, I guess so at that time we were seeing him relatively regularly. Then there was a situation, he ended up breaking into our house. It was the divorce was kind of a nightmare. And so after that, there was restraining orders, and then I wasn't able to see him. Like, he did not come to my bat mitzvah, which was really special to have him at David's. And not too long after, within 2 weeks of my bat mitzvah, we moved to Chicago. So we moved from Rochester, New York, where he lived, to Chicago. And I never really saw him after that. Like, the next time that I saw him after that was probably my high school graduation. So it had been 7 years, almost 8 years of and there was no communication. Like, he didn't send us letters. He didn't call. Actually, I remember one time that he called and I answered the phone and I just said, hello. It's the 90s and wasn't like I knew who was calling. I just answered the phone, right? I was probably 15 and I answered the phone and I said, hello. And he said, hello. And I recognized his voice immediately because it's my dad. And he said, oh, is this Melissa? It was my sister's name. I said, no, it's Liana. And he goes, oh, is Melissa there? And I was like, yeah, hold on a second. I'll go get her. And so I went and got Melissa and they talked for a while and he never asked to talk to me or anything. And then again, I didn't see him or really even speak to him until my high school graduation when he came out. And then he came out for my sister's high school graduation, which was a couple of years later. And that was wild. That was when I found out that my parents didn't get divorced until I was in high school. So they separated. Like, he moved out when I was like 8. They didn't even finalize the divorce until I was closer to 15, 16.
Wow.
And I don't really know, the details of all that and whatever. It's not my story. But that was also when I found out that my mom was moving to Maryland, was that night. And so when I got engaged to Matt, my mom, like moms do, called all of her friends and told everybody that I was getting married. And one of the women that lived in Rochester had gone to the same hairdresser that we used to go to when we were kids, and my mom went to, and my dad still went to. So Barbara, this woman who my mom had mentioned, goes to see Carl and is like, oh, hey, Liana, one of Bonnie's daughters is getting married. And Carl's like, oh, wow, that's so cool. And a couple weeks later, he cuts my dad's hair and he's like, so I hear one of your daughters is getting married. But he didn't remember us because he hadn't seen us for 10 years. And my dad goes, oh, really? Which one? And Carl, of course, didn't know. He was like, I'm not really sure. I just, Barbara Morgenstern mentioned it, whatever. So my sister calls me one day. I'm leaving work and says, so, hey, you're probably going to be getting a call from Dad soon. He knows that you're getting married because he called me to see if I was getting married. I told him that, no, it was you. So I get a phone call from my dad and he said, hey, congratulations. I hear you're getting married. Just wanted to see when it was and if there's anything I could do. And I said, Dad, honestly, I wasn't really planning to have you there. I said, you haven't been at anything. You haven't been in my life at all. So I didn't really expect to have you there. I said, Mom is giving me this much money to the wedding. If you want to come, send me a check for that much money and I'll send you an invitation. But your girlfriend can't come. I mean, they used to lock me in a room when I would go visit there because I was allergic to the cats, which I was allergic to the cats. And I thought it was great because I just sat in this room by myself and read.
Yeah.
And not that they were basically locking me in a room all weekend by myself. And they would bring me my meals in there.
Oh my God.
I mean, I literally never left. And that was, I think, that was towards the end of when I was even seeing him. So all that said, he did come to the wedding.
Wow.
We actually still use the vacuum cleaner that he bought me for my wedding, which I was like, well, I can't believe he bought me a vacuum cleaner. And I've had this vacuum cleaner for 20 years. But, we've had a couple experiences as I've been older that have been really great. Like, we get along really well. We have a lot of stuff in common. I have a lot of stuff in common with my mom, but I also have a lot of stuff in common with him. But there's never been a relationship. And sometimes him and sometimes other people will ask me like, well, what does a relationship look like? I'm like, I don't know.
I think even just starting with the things you have in common, like look how sweet that was earlier in the conversation with your son.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think
He was able to talk about that so easily and so sweetly,
Yeah. And so it's hard because, again, like, even with all the work that I've done, there are still a lot of unhealed parts of me that, I feel very abandoned by my father and that still are angry and sad and grieving the relationship that I could have had with somebody that I probably could have really used through some of those really challenging times. And also, like, I don't want to be the one that has to keep doing it. You know what I mean? And
Fair.
he has a lot of, like, the woman that he's dating now has children that are my age with grandchildren that are, itty bitties, but he has relationships with these women that are
Wow.
basically me and my sister's ages, and he doesn't have relationships with us. And so it's like, I know that he can do it. And I know that I can do it also, but also he's so far, and I've told him this relatively recently, again, you're so far in my rear view. I don't think about you. Like, I want to think about you. I want to have that connection to you. And also, like, where have you been? So, and how much do I need to put out to, like, continue to beg for you to pay attention to me or have a relationship with me or, like, my son and all of these things. So
those emotions are real too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And you're an adult now, so
yeah. And, and I have my own stuff going on, and I have plenty of people who have been there for me through things that are going to be the people I'm going to think of first. Like, that's what it was. It was around my surgery. It was right after my surgery, I think. And he was like, well, if you need anything, reach out. And I was like, no. Like, if I need something, you're the last person I'm thinking about, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk to me, give me a shout, send me a text message. Like, I'm here to chat. I'd love to have a relationship with you. And also, I don't want to be the driver of it because it's not my job to drive that relationship. I'm still the child. Like, I'm an adult and I'm still the child. So if you want to have a relationship with me, that would be awesome. But I don't want to have to be the one that's continually having to chase you to have that relationship. And I don't know what that looks like. And you clearly do, because you have basically a parental relationship with these other women that are my age. So how do you do that? Do that with me. Please, that would be cool.
I'm sure my dad will have something to say about this, and he's going to absolutely love you. Thank you so much for getting so real and vocalizing it so well. And I love you. You're the best.
I love you too. It's been so wild to reconnect with you. All these, just unreal.
And now, like, our sons are born on the same day. What? And we just figured that out.
It's just like the loops, it's, again, the universe does universe stuff. And the more that you open to that and the more that you trust that like everything is happening the way that it's supposed to. And also realizing that, like, you have so much choice in the matter and that we're not a victim to your circumstances. You created your circumstances. It gives you so much power to be able to own your story and own your place and own your authenticity of what you want your life to look like. And even if you can't take your life from here to there immediately, you can, like, turn that direction and decide what one thing can I do from this space that gets me closer to that space. And where am I going, right? That's what the North Star is, right? Where am I going? I'm the North Star. I get to decide where I'm going, but I have to decide who I'm going to be first. And so I have one quote that I wrote down a long time ago. I actually found it again yesterday, and it says, decide who you're going to be and then be them. And then I wrote next to that, act. Because that's all we're doing. We're all just out here acting a part. And if you think that your part is Liana at Ferguson, then you're going to come to life a whole lot differently than if your identity is Liana and you also have a job at this place called Ferguson from, 9 to 5 on Monday through Friday. And that's a choice that you made to be in that space. But I don't have to operate from that space into my life. And that was really what was happening before COVID and before my surgery and before losing my voice and literally finding it again. And I know that all of that was divinely guided by the universe to be like, we're going to take this gift that we've given you and we're going to just take it away so that you can decide how you want to bring it back and what you're going to do with it once you get it back. And that was my path.
I absolutely love that. That was so good. That literally could be the intro right there. You have definitely found your voice, and I'm so proud of all that you've accomplished.
Me
And
too.
it's been truly beautiful reconnecting with you. Thank you so much.
Same. Thank you so much. This has been great. And this is really, I was so excited for today. So this has been awesome.
You've heard from my mom. Now, let's switch it over to Grandpa.
All right, Leanna, I caught up with a college buddy.
Well, you had a beautiful interview with Liana, and you guys were able to reminisce. But the truth of the matter is that this episode is really a very good example of the highs and lows of relationship building. And she really sums it up perfectly by saying that no matter what cards you're dealt, you can choose your own destiny. You can improve on your life. You can build and improve relationships from the deficiencies, sometimes of other relationships, and make them better in the future. That it's never too late to have a relationship. And if you want to have a good relationship, you do need people that give their all and want to participate. Without the participation of both parties, you don't really have a proper relationship. That's what I get out of what her intentions are in this interview. And I think she's right, that it's got to always be more than one-sided if you want it to really be real. Now, she has a beautiful relationship with her son and found out that they have a lot of things in common. The son says, I really like my father, I like my mom, and depending on who you're talking to, which neighbor or which relative, one says you're just like your mom and the other one says they're just like your dad. But that is the truth. You have the genes from both. You have possibly habits and different things that you're going to pick up from both. And whether you like it or not, but things that are not necessarily all that becoming. We also know that we can fix and change things if we put in the effort and we really try. And when you really build the right type of relationship with a person, even if you don't see them for 20 years, you can reconnect with someone after 20 years, just like it was yesterday. This happened to even me at a couple of the reunions where we were able to rehash things and go over our friendship like time had stood still. But that's because we had built a relationship during that period of time, and we really showed that we cared about each other. When you have compassion and you really care and you really show it and you participated in their lives during that period of time, you never know when you can get reconnected. Now, I think part of her question is that all of a sudden, the way things have changed a little bit and certain events occur in your life, do you reconnect with your natural father, even if he's been absent? It's an interesting proposition. And as you know from many shows that we've done, it's up to how it plays out. If you keep an open mind and you don't keep any animosity, you find out that it is possible, that it's never too late to have a relationship with anyone, including someone that you wanted to have a relationship and it didn't really work out. That doesn't mean it can't happen down the road. But I do agree, it's only human nature that if you want to have a relationship with a cousin or a nephew, they move on with their lives, even though you did a lot of things with them necessarily when you were younger. And sometimes it's difficult to say to yourself, but I don't want to chase after them. I want them to be equal participants so that they're a meaningful part of my life. Well, if you put that criteria, a lot of people are going to fall short. That's a hard criteria to meet. But if you make it easy and say, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. I'm going to be at such and such place where I'm going to have a meeting with somebody, and I don't mind having a coffee where I'm going to be in your neighborhood, and let's get together.
Very low expectations.
But you have to keep right? But if you keep low expectations, then you can be rewarded. If you put a big stigma on it, it's never going to happen. And not only that, but nobody will meet those high expectations because they're not on the same wavelength with you even. But if you make it easy for them to get together with you, that it becomes increasingly more possible. And not only that, but if you have many of these so-called relationship building opportunities and they deliver, it improves over a period of time. And then all of a sudden, she also mentioned, I really have a lot of things maybe in common with my dad after all. But when family splits up, and especially a man goes with a different woman and makes a new family, it's very difficult to juggle two different families at the same time, or three different families at the same time. And some men have even made children even with multi-women. They don't get it. They don't get the responsibility that making children is not as difficult as taking care of them and loving them and being a participant in their lives. And it doesn't have a time limit on it. It's supposed to be like that your whole life. And a lot of men don't understand that responsibility, that you might be able to make a child, but to actually be a father and be a participant and to be responsible for them, it doesn't have a time limit to it, is what I was saying. You have to be there their whole lives. And a lot of men said, well, wait a minute, I'm not so sure that I was cut out for all of this. And they do this double take. And well, I'm not even sure that I even married the right girl in the first place. I want a do-over. I just want to start over again. And guess what? Even starting over again, there's still going to be issues with the new family. And what did you do with your old family? What did you do with the children that you had before? Is that all just make-believe? Was that just part of a learning experience or a learning curve? And you no longer have any responsibilities towards those people? These are questions that people ask themselves all the time. And yet I don't see anybody teaching the course on it at the college. Do you?
Better call daddy.
But when in doubt, better call daddy and I'll set you straight.
I know you had some nice things to say about Liana. You want to give her a little send-off?
Well, the truth of the matter is that she's knows how to have a good time. She loves the arts. She loves to communicate. And she loves really the time that she spent with you in Israel and where you were able to explore together. And you guys experienced things during a very difficult period of time. And it was very meaningful. So that when you reconnected with her, even 20 years later, it was like not missing a beat, where you guys were able to rekindle because you did have a real relationship and did care for each other then and now.
Thanks for listening. Now I think I'm going to go call my dad.
I'll say goodbye and see you the next time.
Thanks for listening to the Better Call Daddy Show. Join us weekly for new episodes and more daddy wisdom.
Better Call Daddy is good advice always.
And love you, Grandpa, and love you, Mommy.
That's so cute. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. You can also find special episodes on my YouTube channel, and you can listen on Apple Podcasts,
On Good Pods.
Spotify, Amazon Music, Alexa, or your preferred podcatcher. That's a wrap for now.